Hi there! Welcome to Cello Tuesdays. I'm Diane Chaplin. I am back in Portland after a wonderful couple months of touring with Portland Cello Project all over the country. It was really fun to play concerts for live audiences, and yeah, here I am doing another live stream. I am continuing to explore the oddities of the solo cello repertoire, and I have a wonderful program today called Slavic Roots. I think the salient connecting factor for this program is that most of the composers on today's program either escaped from left Imperial Russia and or the Soviet Union, depending on their time, because of the repressiveness going on there. And so that's kind of the connecting factor here. I'm going to start with a composer that I did not know was a Ukrainian composer, Sergei Prokofiev. He was from what is now known as Donetsk Oblast in Ukraine. He did live in Russia as well as Ukraine. He lived in St. Petersburg. He lived in the Ukrainian steppes after he got married. And when the Russian Revolution happened in 1917, Prokofiev was born in 1891. So pre-20th century. When the Russian Revolution happened, he got out of there. He went to the US, he went to Paris, and he was away from that area for about 25 years. Against his friends' urging, he returned to the Soviet Union. He missed the countryside, not the country, but the beauty of the country in Russia, and so he did go back there despite the repressions of the Soviet regime. But he kind of was able to work with them because he was willing to write music that had a more harmonic, maybe we could say, attitude about it, less dissonant than the contemporary music that was going on. And in fact, when he went back to Russia, he was quoted as saying that he felt that Western contemporary music was pointless, without a future, and utterly devoid of content. So he was not very happy with the dissonance and abstract quality of a lot of music that was going on in that early part of the 20th century. He wrote in 1934 a piece called Music for Children, which was a set of kind of miniatures for students. And I'm going to play the march from the Music for Children. That was arranged by the Ukrainian cellist Gregor Piatigorsky, someone else that I didn't know was from Ukraine. And Piatigorsky was from the area that's now known as Dnipro in Ukraine. He studied at Moscow Conservatory. He was very much a prodigy when he was young, a wonderful cellist from a young age. When he was 18, he wanted to go out of Russia to study, and the Soviet authorities wouldn't let him. So he managed to smuggle himself and his cello in a cattle car into Poland, and from there to Europe, and eventually he ended up being having a wonderful career in the United States. So he made an arrangement of the march from the Music for Children by Prokofiev, and here it is. That was Prokofiev's March from the Music for Children, arranged by Piatigorsky. Someone suggested that I announce after the pieces what they were because people forget. I'm also going to look at the comments this time because I usually don't. Someone says I am a master. That's very sweet. Thank you. So the next piece I'm going to play, and it occurs to me that one of the things about most of the pieces, I guess all the pieces on this concert, they're really miniatures. Like, it's all little things. Even when I play something that's sort of a longer work, it's broken up into kind of small fragments, sort of miniatures from the Slavic areas. The next piece is by someone who you probably have never heard of. He was a Russian composer and cellist. His name is Konstantin Alexandrovich Minyar-Beloruchev. And he will be the earliest composer that I'm playing on this program. He was born during the Romantic era in 1874 in what was at the time Sienica, Poland, which was part of the Russian Empire. And he studied at the Warsaw Conservatory, Moscow Conservatory, and then he managed to get himself to Tbilisi, Georgia. And Georgia's going to have a kind of connection through this program as well. So Tbilisi was a place that had a lot of culture. The Georgian area is very different than Russia, but of course it ended up being part of Russian Empire and Soviet Union, despite the fact that it's a very, very unique and different place. But I think my guess is that it was a safe place for people to be, that it was a little bit, maybe they had a little bit more artistic freedom there because they're sort of out of the mainstream Russian area. So from 1912 he lived in Tbilisi and he taught there. And one of his claims to fame was that he was the cellist of Raya Garbusova, a wonderful Russian-American cellist. So the two pieces that he wrote, it is his opus 1 and his opus 2, which means the first two pieces that he published. They're very romantic in style. I don't know when they were written. They are a prelude and then something called les réautes, which kind of means like enhancements, but they sound very much like this piece. They're really based on the same kind of I think motif. I will make a brief pause between them, but you'll pretty much think I'm playing one elongated pieces. So this is Prelude and Les Réautes by Minyar-Beloruchev. was two romantic pieces by Konstantin Minyar-Beloruchev. So the next piece I'm going to play is a wonderful piece that I've been super thrilled to discover. It's a piece by Alexandre Tcherepnin. He was born in 1899, so also another person who was born right before the turn of the 20th century. He was from St. Petersburg. He was part of a bourgeois family there, and so when the Russian Revolution hit in 1917, his family got out of there, and guess where they went? They went to Tbilisi, Georgia, because that's where you went. And then he went to Paris in 1921, and he never went back to live in Russia. He had an international career. He traveled often to the US, and he lived in New York, kind of alternately New York, Paris, near the end of his life. A very prolific output. And he had very interesting ways that he constructed the harmony of his piece. Similar to Prokofiev, he was someone who did not buy in much to this super abstract, dissonant kind of playing. His pieces, certainly the one that I'm going to play, which is a suite for solo cello, is very much on the classical form in terms of the content. Harmonically, this piece is based on a pentatonic scale. He also was known to use old Russian modes and Georgian harmonies, Georgian modes. But this one is based on a pentatonic scale, so that would be obviously 5 notes. So a normal scale would be like this. And a pentatonic scale would be something like this. So you take some of the notes and leave some out. And you're going to hear that right from the beginning, that he kind of forms these strings of pentatonic passageway. So this suite's in 4 movements. The first movement is called quasi-cadenza, which means it has a freedom. The second movement is a kind of sparkling scherzo. The third movement maybe sounds kind of like a lullaby. It's the slow movement. And the last movement is rousing and has some very interesting pizzicato techniques. So this is the suite by Alexandre Tcherepnin in 4 movements. that was the Suite for Solo Cello by Alexandre Tcherepnin. Okay, so now we come to potentially audience participation part of the program. I'm going to play a piece that has kind of no name, and so if you would like to name it, you may after you hear it, obviously. I'm going to play a piece by Sofia Gubaidulina, who is a very, very renowned composer, born in 1931 in what is now the Republic of Tatarstan, would have been Soviet Union, obviously, at the time. She studied composition and piano at the Kazan Conservatory, and during her early conservatory years, Western contemporary music was like literally banned. They weren't allowed to have scores, particularly Stravinsky, very forbidden, and they would do raids of the dorm rooms and things looking to see if the students had these scores. And of course, they managed to get them because they were students. She later studied at the Moscow Conservatory, and her music was deemed irresponsible by the Soviet authorities because it was too atonal for them, and she was using alternative tunings. She eventually was blacklisted. Despite all that, she gained international fame in the 80s, and in 1992 she got out of there and moved to Hamburg, Germany, where she still lives. She wrote a set of preludes for cello. There's 10 preludes, and she didn't give them very good names, so that's why if you would like to help name this, you may. I'm going to play the second prelude, which is, what she does in these preludes is she explores different cello techniques, so she kind of names them with the technique. But this one is named legato staccato, which basically means smooth short. And I find a lot more content in it maybe than smooth short, so I'm not going to tell you anything about it. I'm not going to describe it at all. And if you would like to offer your suggestion for a name, I will look at some of them after the piece and maybe also after the program. Okay, so this is the second prelude, Legato Staccato by Sofia Gubaidulina. So that was the second prelude for solo cello by Sofia Gubaidulina, and I'm gonna look. I'm noticing comments from before. Maybe because I played concerts for live audiences, like suddenly I want to read the comments. Which those of you who've seen my broadcast know that I don't like to read comments. Someone asked about the pizzicato technique, which is not clear how he wants it to happen. I'm doing that, so I'm plucking. That's one piece ago. I'm doing that, so I'm doing one pluck with my left hand and one pluck with my right hand. Yeah, it's coordination. Okay, so if you'd like to name that prelude by Sofia Gubaidulina, please do. Otherwise, we'll continue to call it legato staccato. So the next piece I'm gonna play is, I guess, the most recently written. This was written in 2008 by the Ukrainian composer and mostly cellist, but he's also a composer, Yuriy Leonovich. And he's someone that is one of my internet friends from the International Cello Society on Facebook. He was born in Kiev. And he came with his family when he was younger to the U.S., and he now teaches at Bob Jones University in South Carolina. He wrote this piece. It's a serenade for solo cello, and it was originally in 6 movements. I'm going to leave one movement out. I'm going to leave the cadenza movement out, so my apologies to him. So I'm going to play 5 of the movements. He wrote them in order to kind of take a humorous look at the life of a conservatory cellist. So the first and the last movement are the same material, and they're like a serenade. It's like night music, like a serenade, someone walking around in a beautiful evening on the campus, maybe strolling their cello, strolling around, strumming their cello. The second movement is something that if you're a cellist who's ever taken an audition for any orchestra, you've probably learned the excerpts from Don Juan, Strauss's Don Juan. It's sort of the bane of existence of many, many cellists who have to take orchestral auditions. And so this is this movement expresses cellist's feelings towards that movement. And for those of you who know the excerpts really well, I am playing what he wrote, not how the excerpts go. The third movement is a kind of annoyingly repetitive and very compelling dance in 5/8, which it's kind of almost has I almost find it a little demonic maybe. And then the fourth movement is a Siciliana, which is a kind of lilting slow dance that was based on a tone row for a theory assignment. It's very short. Okay, so this is 5 of the 6 movements of the Serenade for Solo Cello by Yuriy Leonovich. I can also tune my cello. That was the Serenade for Solo Cello by Ukrainian-American cellist and composer Yuriy Leonovich. I'm checking to see if people are sending messages to each other. That's very sweet. I love this. It's like one big little community. Big little community. Interesting. Okay, so I've got one more piece to play. And this is another piece by someone who you've probably never heard of. His name is Nicolas Karjinsky. And I actually was not able to find a whole lot of information about him. He was born in 1894 in Russia. So again, another guy who was born right before the 20th century. I believe that he went and lived in Paris. My guess is he probably bagged out of there at the Russian Revolution, because the piece that he wrote was in 1920. This piece I'm going to play, which is a toccata, was written in 1920, and it's got French all over it. And I know that French was the court language in Russia, but by 1920, it would not have been the court language in Russia because the Russian Revolution had happened. So, and I have some evidence of him with the cellist Paul Bazalaire, who is French. There's like bunches of stuff in there's no Russian on this at all. It's all in French. I think he was in Paris. he had a very interesting style of writing, very much like a lot of romantic and early 20th century musicians who wrote in the style of, and sometimes passed works off as being like something that was from the Baroque era that they found in their grandfather's attic. But in this case, he just wrote in a Baroque style as if he was visited in his dreams and nightmares by Bach. It sounds like romantic Bach. This is the Toccata for solo cello by Nicolas Karjinsky. I'm going to make sure I'm in tune before I hit it.
And that was the very much Baroque flavored toccata by Nicolas Karjinsky to round out this program of Slavic Roots. Thank you really a lot for coming. And I'm going to actually look at comments just for a sec to see if anybody says so much Bach. I know, isn't it completely so much Bach? Okay, I don't. Nobody went for the what they want. The prelude made me think. Okay, I say thank you. We have a name, In the Forest, Birds and Bears, or In the Forest. That is our new name for the Gubaidulina prelude. Barbara, you win the contest. You're the only one that I think I see as a option. Cool. So are you? I see Chris writing, thank you for braving the storms to come play for us. Were you Lewistown by any chance? Because I'm thinking of the blizzard that we had. So the tour that we just did, we were in Montana, and like it was literally a blizzard outside. We played in an airplane hangar in Lewistown, which was super fun. But we also got stuck in a mountain pass coming out of Idaho trying to get to Missoula, and we had just a lot of snow. So I don't know which place you are, Chris, but I think you must be Montana person there. Thank you everybody so much for listening. I'll see more comments on the various pages. They get kind of compiled for me here, but on the Facebook and the YouTube and all the places. And I'll see you next month, the 1st of June. Ooh, I have a really exciting program for the 1st of June. I'm going to play music all of Giovanni Sollima, who's basically kind of a rock and roll cellist. We're going to actually do some 2 cello pieces, so there will be more than just me, solo cello, and then Heather Blackburn's going to join me to do some really fabulous Sollima music. I'll see you then. Bye.